Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order. The Village of Hayward is respectfully acknowledges the land that we are gathered on and the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. Introduction of late items. CEO.
Mr. Mayor, you've got, sorry, I gotta get used to this, right? Correct me, you've got a fire hydrant issue raised by a resident. You have the candidates forum issue raised by a resident. And I think you have one as well that you had for our former mayor.
For our service, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, council agree on those late items to be brought forth? Okay, you're also going to speak to the other late item? You can do that later, or?
I can speak to the first two, the fire and the candidate forum one, if you like. When you say other?
I was referring to the center.
The center, I'm sorry. The short of it for council. This is a staff report that staff sent to council. That is not the appropriate way that we deal with staff reports. They go through the CEO and the finance officer first, and then they go to council after they've been basically vetted and cooked. So staff sending reports directly to council isn't the appropriate way to handle it.
Okay, on any, if it's a late item, if there is a timeline or if it's under pressure, then at any time we have the ability to call a special meeting that it can be addressed, because I think the next council meeting is mid-September.
Yeah.
So if there is something that we do have to deal with prior to that, then we can have a special meeting. Fair? Okay. Approval of agenda. Recommended resolution that the agenda for the council meeting of August 16, 2022 be approved. As amended. Everybody good with that? Okay, minutes of previous meeting, recommended resolution that the minutes of the regular council meeting that was held on July 19th, 2022 be adopted. Do I have a motion, please?
Move that.
Second? Discussion? Opposed? All in favor? Carried. Petition and delegations. We have Mr. Bob Sampson, Hayward Valley Folk Music Society, and Ken McCrae. Is that how you say it? McCrae.
Yes.
Thank you. The chair of the Hayward Futures Society. Gentlemen, we start with Mr. Sampson.
I don't know why
Somebody wants to my chair because I just think I was too short.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I have this presentation that I'd like to call your attention to, and I'm hoping that you each have a copy of our proposal before you. What I'd like to know is if you would like an oral presentation of this proposal, or if you have read the proposal and you have questions that you would like to ask based on the proposal that's been submitted.
Thank you. Council? Councillor Paulson? Do we have questions or do we just take the proposal as submitted? Councillor Tinsley?
I said a question about where, if, oh, sorry. If it mentions if there's any extra revenues, and I know the folks decide frequently there isn't extra revenues, but they would go to either the Kelsey Center or the Hayward Future Society. Is there a way to figure that out? Like, could
Yes.
it be 50% to Hayward Kelsey Center and 50%, just
That's a good question. One of the things that I wanted to change on this proposal, there were several things that I'd like to read into this, is that Hayward Futures and Hayward Valley Folk are now this way. So any revenues that come in go to Hayward Futures. And if the council wishes to have it done in another method, then I'd be happy to discuss that with them. What I normally do, I have a chart for which to pay our musicians. It's a standard chart, and it's based on what all the other folk music societies on the island pay. And what I've offered to the performers is a base price or 70% of the door. The other 30%, which would go to either Sayward Futures or the Kelsey Center.
Okay. May I expand on your question there?
Yeah, you bet.
You're saying that 70% of the profit made would go to the musicians,
That's correct.
correct? 30% either to the Sayward Futures or to the Kelsey Center. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're asking for the Kelsey Center you're not paying rent for the Kelsey Center that night, are you?
That is correct. That was explained to me by the past CAO regarding the Kelsey Center, indicating that because we are a community event, because we are Sayward Futures, that it would be considered different than if it were a private event being held here at the Kelsey Center, i.e. that there would be no rent paid by Sayward Futures for the use of the Kelsey Center for the evening of the concert. That's
Okay.
correct.
So to expand on my point a little bit, if you're not paying rent for the Kelsey Center, then I would lean more towards that going to the monies being paid to the Kelsey Center opposed to Sayward Futures. You
That,
see where I'm going there?
I see where you're going with that, and I don't dispute that at all. It's not my position to say who gets that 30%. I think that that's something that Ken will have to address as being the chair of Sayward Futures. But I have no problem with that money being directed towards the Kelsey Center to help pay for costs, which ties into the paragraph on regarding concessions, that we had two options to go. We could either consider going with what we were doing before, and that is Sayward Valley Folk Music Society would cover the cost of all the beverages and the food that are served, which people pay for, and use that money to put back into the fund for providing those refreshments for the concert. Or if the Kelsey Center wished to do the concessions instead, they would be responsible for all of it and just take all the money that they make during the evening for the concessions.
Because I even know that you're going to get the building for free for the event. There's still a cost to the taxpayer to hold the event. So I would like to see, me personally, that some of that money is brought back to offset those costs if we're not charging any rent. How does council feel about that?
Speaking for myself, I think we could do a 50-50. It'd be a nice split down the middle. Anything would be, half would go to the Sayward Futures and half would go to the Kelsey Center to defray costs.
Councillor Paulson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last time that the Sayward Futures and the Folk Fest group were affiliated, the Kelsey Center was used, and I can't remember whether you paid for the Kelsey Center or not.
No, we did not.
Okay.
There was no real agreement on that. That was between Darlene and myself, and nothing was pursued on payment.
Okay, so since then we have drafted fees and services bylaw, which includes use and rental of the Kelsey Center. What's the matter? Of the Kelsey Center and of the things that are in, like chairs and tables and that sort of thing. So I know that previously Sayward Futures did not pay any rent for using the multipurpose room or using the gym, but when the new fees and services bylaw came out, we paid $80 a night to have a meeting there. So before we get into what we're going to do and not do and what you're going to do and not do, I'd prefer to hear what you have to say, Bob, about you said that there were several changes in here. So before we move any farther, could we discuss what the changes are
Yes.
and that sort of thing?
Okay. On page 2. There is on the 4th paragraph, the society is totally community supported through memberships, admission fees, ticket sales, and private donations. Seaward Futures has decided to go, instead of memberships, individual season passes, which would raise the individual amount that people would be paying, but cut the cost of each individual concert for the people holding those tickets to $10 rather than $20. Now, our experience has been that a lot of people just don't buy passes or they don't buy memberships. They just pay the $20 at the door.
So if you have a membership to Sayward Futures, it's $10.
No. If we have a membership, the part of that money goes to a membership for Sayward Futures. Does that make sense?
Part of the ticket sale?
Not part of the ticket sale. If a person buys a membership for Sayward Folk Music Society,
Okay.
That
Okay,
$15 goes to Sayward Futures
got
to
it.
pay for a membership.
Point of order, Mayor. Should there be no comments from the gallery when we're having a delegation?
Thank you. I assume you heard that? Okay, thank you.
Further questions to that?
Anybody? Is there any other changes other
Yeah.
than the one?
The paragraph after that, a committee of volunteers help the concert evenings to run smoothly by assisting in setup, collecting admission at the door, preparing snacks, working the kitchen, and cleanup after the concerts. I booked the performers, but now we have a group that is taking care of basically Mary Ruth Snyder to create and distribute the posters and submit the articles to the newspapers and other media. So part of that was taken off my shoulders and shared with Sayward Futures.
Okay.
On the next page, 1, 2, 3, 4, on the 5th paragraph, this explains the charge for the price for the concerts. And there will be an admission charge of $20 at the door. Children 16 and under are free. And the annual membership fees are available at, strike that, annual membership fees are available at a cost of $90 per person or $150 per family. That is no longer relevant. What we're looking at is the season pass per person of $110.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Yes, one more thing. At the last paragraph of the last page, this is to the point that you brought up, Mr. Mayor, and that is all monies remaining after the performers are paid, as well as memberships to the Folk Music Society will be given to the Kelsey Center or Sayward Futures and used to cover additional expenses. Now, I leave that open because as we had talked about, we can discuss between ourselves, Sayward Futures and the Village Council, what you feel is an equitable amount of money for each one of those concerts to be shared by both groups.
Okay, Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Anyone? Councillor Tinsley?
Just one extra question, you mentioned the performers they're either offered a flat rate or 70% of the revenues from the door. What's the percentage of like performers? Is like half and half the ticket, or do they all go one way or the other?
Just give you a sample of the price list, okay? The reason why this was set up in Victoria by the General Folk Music Societies, and the pay structure runs broken up into different areas. For example, if a person is local, they get paid one amount of money. If a person is a single, they get paid a certain amount of money. If they're local and single, they get a certain amount of money. And to the extreme, if they're international or from the mainland and 4 or more people in a group, their pay is higher at $430 for the group. And then when we're looking at that, because of the fact that most people go down to Victoria to play, and there's other venues that they can capitalize on when they're there, that they can essentially make more money down in Victoria than they can make in Sayward, obviously, because we have less of a population. So we offered them a base price of $120 for a single act who's local, and to a maximum of $430 if you're coming from the mainland or you're international, if you're a group of 4 or more. So what we had to factor in was that because everybody has to travel so far to get to Sayward, that we would pay them more money based on a percentage of the door. And also, the managers that I work with in Vancouver who hire the acts to come to Sayward, they ask for a specific amount of money or 70% of the door. So I'm just having it straight across as 70% of the door for anybody that comes. Now, the point I'm going to make here is that what if not enough people come to the concert to pay that? Well, Sayward Futures has a budget to cover the cost. We'll pay the door what we take in, and then use the remainder of the money that we have for Sayward Futures to pay the difference. So everybody walks out with the pay that they've been promised. The only situation is we'll book something into the cable house and we can fit 25 people in their max, right? So at $20 a head, you can figure out how much money we're going to be making. But the Kelsey Center itself, as you know from previous concerts, we can hold a lot more people in here. So the revenue goes up exponentially.
But any losses, if there is losses, they're covered by Sayward Futures.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. CAO?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a couple of little things here from administration is, and maybe Lisa can help me on this. And I apologize, I'm not up to date on all the bylaws. I know the fees and charges bylaw has been changed, but I do not believe there's anything in that bylaw that allows for the free use of the hall. Council, by all means, can by resolution change the that, and you know they've done that before. So just so you know, I don't think there's anything under the books, but on our books is a bylaw that states there's a fee for it, but you can reduce that to 0 if you so choose. I've got a little item on insurance. Are you covered by insurance?
No, we don't have any insurance
Um,
for us. We have insurance for Sayward Futures.
Okay. Typically, when someone's using our facilities, such as an event like this, they carry their own insurance. I know that's kind of a fine risk management issue, but it is pretty well a standard procedure wherever you go that when you're renting out your facility to another organization, that they cover the insurance cost of that event. And I think that is available. I don't know what the costs are. It's been several years since I looked at it, but I do know it's available. Just, I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying, making you aware of it. I've asked Michelle about storage space available. I have not received an answer back. Just letting you know. I just don't know.
Okay,
And then the last thing I've got is if we're talking 10 events and staff have, at least one staff member has to be there. This is outside normal hours. It's roughly a cost between $700 and $800 a year. And again, that's for your information. That would have to be budgeted for.
may I interrupt for a moment? We're looking at the possibility of 11, but how we've got it worked out is only the larger venues will be held at the Kelsey Center. If we've got a band that's, say, for example, I've got a band scheduled tentatively to come in on November 13th, Ryder Bachman's band from Cumberland, which would be a boon to the community because of the fact that it's also a dance band. So we attract a lot of younger people into the gymnasium at the Kelsey Center. But person, a solo act or a duo, we still have the option to continue having those smaller venues over at the Cable House, which has been working out rather well for us, by the way.
But the CAO brings up a couple of good points. One is if we have to have a staff member here, that's a hard cost to the village and to the taxpayer. So that's something that we're going to have to consider, correct?
Yes,
Also, in terms of liability and the insurance, if anybody gets injured or something does happen, that liability falls back onto the village if you don't have insurance. Correct?
yes.
So I would think, as a suggestion, that you may want to look into insurance cost and how that would come out. Would you not agree, Council?
Yeah, we need liability protection.
We do that. We took out it's a rather large insurance policy for Sayward Futures for the Cable House. Mary Ruth would have to address that if she was given the floor. I don't know anything about the capital that's changing hands for insurance or anything like that. Our committees are handling those special things. The only thing that I want to say about the issues that you brought up was the fact that one of the reasons this proposal came to be was that Jason Johnson walked me through this proposal and indicated to me just the opposite of what you told me. As far as costs and everything were concerned, as far as rentals and everything were concerned. So my understanding was a bit different than what you're explaining to me now. So we have a conflict there. Nothing that can be overcome, can't be overcome, but I'm getting kind of mixed messages. And I know Jason isn't here
We'll clear it
anymore.
up.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll get everybody on the same page and we'll clear that up for you.
that would be good.
Okay, it won't be tonight,
I know, I understand that, yes.
but we will.
Yes.
But some of the questions that we have asked and what the CEO has brought forth, if you could find those answers for us and bring that back, that would be great in terms of the insurance liability, what we're looking at for the hard cost of our staff, that type of thing.
Indeed, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. CEO?
Sorry, just a comment. I hope
Yes,
you
sir.
appreciate my job is to advise council.
I know,
And if you ask me, I think you're doing a wonderful thing. But my job is still to advise the council and village on what the issues are. And sorry, but that's what I had to do.
you don't have to apologize.
But the CEO was also right that we have the ability as council to do a resolution and have the evening for, in terms of rent free. But we don't want to be liability free either though. Right? And if we have to bring one of our staff members in to cover, that's an extra cost to the taxpayer for the folks. So
Yeah.
that's a concern.
I understand that. I think one of the things that we had to address in 2020 and late 2019, when we began having the concerts at the Kelsey Center, was the fact that Darlene would come to the concerts. So we already had an employee from the Kelsey Center there.
Right.
And so if we had somebody who was actually working with Seward Valley Folk, who was also associated with the Kelsey Center, that would meet the criteria too, would it not?
Yep.
Okay,
As long as they're an employee.
yes,
Sure.
okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sampson. Appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Have a
Oh,
good
by
night.
the way, I just want to say that my condolences to Sue. And also that it's one of the reasons why we were able to do the Kelsey Center in the first place was through the help of Stu and John when he was here. And I really appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next delegate. We're gonna meet with them. This is called instead of the legal because with the liabilities. Sure. Council. Resolution to be passed in terms of the CAO meeting with Mr. Sampson and getting some of those questions answered and the resolve of what the rental or non-rental is going to be at the Kelsey Center with me and Mr. France. You have it a second? And discussion? No, opposed? In favor? Carried. We got to go through the whole gamut, eh? Okay, so Mr. Sampson, wherever you are, we will meet with you. Okay. So can we have Ken, please? Or is he just supportive Bob? Okay. I apologize. Okay, we're going to move on to correspondence. From A to F, Council want any pulled?
Sorry. Grade number F.
F,
Yes, please.
I've got that one as well.
There we go.
Councillor Paulson? Nope. Okay, so resolution from A to E be accepted by council as correspondence. Do I have a motion, please? Second?
It's going to be A to F.
A to F, but F being pulled.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion? Opposed? All in favor? Okay, so let's pull F. Certainly, CAO.
This was sort of like a bit of a mystery. When I first got it, I thought it was them return it, asking us if we wanted one, but I realized it was actually a local resident asking. So I did talk to Return It, and their short answer is these units are for population 2,500 to 5,000. They haven't got very many of them. They cost $50,000. That's, they'll pay for that, and there's a whole bunch of costs in maintaining it. So they were quite clear that we didn't meet their criteria, and they're just starting to roll them out now.
Well, actually, I think that's, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's too bad that we don't fit. Is there anything else you wanted to speak to on that, Councillor Tinsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's, I'm not sure whether it's us or we can thank the writer about the suggestion, mentioned the reality of the figures, which I kind of assumed was going to happen. But possibly through creative minds, the writer's mind or someone else, we can come up with something else to make that possible for to help out charities or things like that, sort of like we had before. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Okay, number 7, council reports, discussion on Oscar Days events. CAO.
I think the information is attached, well, I don't think, I know it's attached to the agenda, and I think it kind of speaks for itself. It was more of a inquiry from Councillor Tinsley than for me, but I pulled the information together for that discussion. So I really don't have anything to add. It's there. And
one thing that I noticed through the report in conversation with the corporal here from the RCMP, there was very little incidents. The RCMP had excellent presence at this event. There was, a couple intoxicated people, which no surprise. They did have fireworks and no permit was issued for those fireworks. So that's going to have to be going forward, something made very clear to the organizers and to the people that attend the event. If you want fireworks, there has to be a permit involved. Or after this one, next time there will be fines involved. Make sense? Councillor Tinsley?
So I agree. I think it was obviously a success this year. But I think, and I think we're talking the same talk here. We just need to put something in writing to them, recapping this year and the expectations going forward, which are that there is a fireworks bylaw and that they need to make that clear to their, attendees. And also the point on here was around, they had a sort of a DJ going on in the field there.
Yes.
And some highly inappropriate language just being broadcast to the whole village. So I'm about putting that type of thing in black and white to them so they fully understand. And I believe it was also a success because although I enjoyed the beer garden when they were here before, the lack of beer garden, I think it keeps things calmed down. And that having the Saturday night dance, the way they did it worked out well. So
Agreed.
So the session we just do a recap to them. These are this and the expectations going forward.
Agreed. Councillor Paulson, do you have anything to add?
No.
Nope.
I agree with what Councillor Tinsley had to say, and I think a letter is well worth the effort. They should also be advised to apply early for a fireworks permit if they'd like one.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, when the DJ was up there and I heard him say a really inappropriate word, I think it was Trump. I'm not sure, but I think he did. And that can't happen again. Sorry, is this recorded? Sorry. Okay, reports of committee. None. Reports from the mayor. One of the things I want to discuss is our former mayor, John McDonald. We're going to be holding celebration of his life here at the Kelsey Center. And it is something from John McDonald's the longest serving mayor that Sayward has ever had. And he spent 14 years on council, 12 as mayor. And it's something that I would like to see the municipality let the Kelsey Center go for free for that event. There shouldn't be any charges for the former mayor, in my opinion. Council, any comments on that?
Just a question. I'd agree. The facility should be so. With the celebration of life, is it like food and snacks and all? I mean, I'm totally supportive. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, there's the only thing the municipality is going to be involved with is giving the rental. We have nothing to do with any of the agenda for it, the preparation for it, the food, snacks, nothing. We're just going to give the Kelsey Center for the event. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Is that something I need a resolution on? No. Okay, good. Anybody disagree? CAO?
No, I think I take it as staff direction.
Thank you. And that'll be held on the 27th, is that correct? And do we have a time? 1 o'clock, 1 till whenever it's over? Okay, thank you. So 1 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, unfinished business, none. Staff report. Land use. CAO, speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I promised when I signed on that I would try and hit the major issues. And it's quite clear that land use issues are not all the major issues, but quite a few of the major issues. So I've been delving into it with our new approving officer, and we've made headway, but we've got a ways to go, and that's why you don't have more in-depth reports now. So if you give us a little bit of time, but in September, we'll come back with far more detail about some of the things we're dealing with. So On the, I'll just go through them really quickly. On the Adama project, our AO has found quite a few issues that need resolving, and it's something that he's working with the proponent and the proponent's engineers and other consultants to resolve. And as you're aware, it's a very complex subdivision with lots of issues. And we just want to make sure that we get all those issues in front of council so that you can give us the direction you want to see for that project. So we'll be doing that over the next several weeks. On the Van Brockland property, you've already got a solution to that. We just have to finalize it. And the only thing holding that up right now is Mr. Van Brockland hasn't responded to our inquiries. So we're not quite sure. We've heard rumors that he may be of poor health right now. We just don't know. So just want you to know that we're working on it. The Kelsey Way one, there's a few changes there. And again, I think it has to be looked at in terms of issues and brought back to council. So we have a clear idea what you think should be happening on that site, because we've already had the discussion. There seems to be a little bit of a not quite fitting between the proponent and what I hear council wanted. So again, that's a matter of getting clarity, and I think you've noticed that the site is a lot more clean than it was. It still has a ways to go. They do have some things in mind, but I don't think they quite, from what I've talked to a few of you on, have got the vision that you saw for the property. So we got to figure that part out and make sure all the little, I like to call them dangly bits, are taken care of. The same thing goes for Island Timberlands. The AO has identified some issues, and I think it's just a matter of making sure that you have all the information in front of you, again, on road servicing and a few other issues that are basically unaddressed right now. And so we'll be doing some talking and negotiating with them to see that that's done. It also includes getting a better understanding for the lands and behind the subdivision they're planning, to understand what their plans are for there. They may come back and say, look, we've got no plans, but that's fine. That's the answer. But what we want to know is, are you planning future subdivisions? In which case, of course, that makes things like drainage and servicing all that more important. I think what the AO has done is he's looked down the road and just made sure that we're catching all the bumps before they occur. So all these things you'll get in September, either the first meeting in September, the second, or a combination of both.
Perfect. One of the things for some of the people don't know is that we did the last meeting hire an approving officer, and this individual has ample experience in terms of engineering and everything else. So this way we don't end up putting ourselves ever in a liable position or the developer. Okay, so second staff report. And this is the appointment of a deputy chief elections officer. So the recommended resolution is that council withdraws the previous appointment of Jason Johnson as deputy chief election officer, and that Shannon Carlo be appointed as chief election officer, deputy chief for the 2022 local government election. Do you have a motion, please? Second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Opposed? All in favor? She's passed. Financial statement, variance support, verbal, Lisa Clark. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the only reason I had it on the agenda tonight was just to say that I'm going to bring a variance report to the September 6th meeting. We've been pretty busy with election work, interim CAO coming on and getting files passed over to him. So, you know, long story short, everything is looking on track. There isn't any, you know, substantial overages or anything that I need to bring to your attention, but I will have a full report at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So council received the verbal financial report, variance report. May I have a motion, please? Second? Discussion? Opposed? In favor? Wasn't quite there yet, but there we go. I understood. Okay, number 12, the Emergency Service Public Works Recreation Department reports from Councillor Tinsley, who is the Emergency Program Coordinator. Would you like to speak to it, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've listed 12 points. I've been in the position for about 3 months now. I don't know whether you want me to, I'll run through them really quickly. We've got the radio equipment all checked out that's in here on the Emergency Operations Center. We're also doing now, I'm doing the weekly check-ins with the other emergency operations centers on Vancouver Island on the Wednesday evenings. Attending various WebExes to do with environmental issues such as wildfires and heat conditions currently. Also attending the training sessions for the SRD emergency social services teams, which are once a month, making sure our phone lines are all set up and operating, verified the CCAN equipment that we have in place. The CCANs where we store a lot of our emergency equipment for the village. Also reviewed and reorganized some of the manuals for the EPC center. Verified the existence of access to internet and the electrical plugs through the generator system for the Kelsey Center. Should there be an emergency where all power is out for a long time. We also have a specialist, we're recruiting for specialist individuals to take training around usage of the village drone, which has been supplied through the SRD for emergency purposes only. So we have a recruiting program in there and there'll be education there. Also this center, right where we are right now, the administration building will have a new larger antenna for our emergency ham radio system, again through the SRD to ensure we have better coverage on that. That's coming forward, and applications are in place or becoming in place rather through the SRD for various grants to help out with emergency services. And one final point that the CFO Lisa kindly pointed out, which would be number 13, it's not on here, is we've started a monthly emergency awareness corner in the monthly newsletter to give tips to people about various things they can do in preparing themselves for emergency situations and that type of thing. That's the end of that report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So recommended resolution that council receive the emergency program coordinator report for information and discussion. Do I have a motion, please? Second? It's got to be you. Discussion? Opposed? Discussion. Sorry, go ahead.
Ask about. Thank you.
You have to kill your mic there.
Oh.
Councillor Tinsley. There you go.
I just wanted to ask about the drone program and if you have lots of volunteers or are there people in the community that have already come forward or will it be advertised?
Thanks for that question. So the status is there is currently one individual who is able to, has the current license level. We have already run an advertisement in I think it was last month's monthly newsletter. And we do have 2 candidates who've come forward, 2 or 3 actually now. And the plan is to have a meeting with the current volunteer and those people to talk about what's involved and how the courses look. These recruits, if we'll call them, if they're still interested, currently don't have the licensing required. This drone requires, I believe it's 2 levels of licensing. So everything's moving forward, and the bottom line is it didn't go anywhere during COVID. You know, things were tough there. So things are back on track, and we're hoping that, and the goal would be, to have at least 3 people available who could operate the drone for specific situations, not only for the village situation, but a particular emergency involving all our village, but if called on through search and rescue or even the RCMP for usage in certain situations. So I think that answers the question. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Opposed? All in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Okay, so the recommended resolution is the appointment of officers, bylaw 488, 2022 be given 4th and final reading. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Opposed? All in favor? Carried. Did you want to speak on that at all, CAO? You're good? Okay, thank you. Next is the subdivision amendment bylaw 498. Pardon me, I'm dyslexic. 489, 2022, be given fourth and final reading. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second,
I'll second it.
discussion? Opposed? All in favor? Passed. Anything under new business, CAO?
No, sure.
No? Okay, thank you.
Yes, they were at the beginning.
Well, we didn't discuss them.
Oh, sorry.
Good catch.
Yeah.
So we'll do that under new business right now.
All right. Okay, so let's deal with the easy one first. I think the candidates forum has been resolved. I believe the Sayward Community Futures is going to be putting it on. At least I received an email from them today at like
Yeah.
5 o'clock. So that one's taken care of. And just so everybody knows, the municipality does not put candidate forum on simply because it's kind of a conflict between having an election and being the elections officers and then actually having another session about getting you guys to speak up, and it's better that it's done off-site, and the general policy is that municipalities don't put them on. Anyway, that one's dealt with. The John McDonald issue has been dealt with, and that leaves the fire hydrant issue, which was raised by a resident. And I'm sorry, did we get information for you on it?
No.
Okay, so the short of it is a resident raised some concerns that their insurance rates had gone up $300 or $310. And they were told by the agent that it was because the rating for the village does not include hydrants. This had us really puzzled because of course we have hydrants, we got lots of them. So it started a round of discussions with various people, including the agent as well as the underwriters. And what I've come up with is basically that there's a number of reasons why a person's home insurance would go up. One would be, generally speaking, the insurance rates have gone up. Or secondly, that the value of their house has gone up, and that's what fire insurance is supposed to do. It's supposed to mimic the replacement value of the house. But the underwriters also said the most common reason why rates go up like that is because the agent has misinterpreted the ratings for the community. And I haven't confirmed that because the agent hasn't confirmed that. But I believe that's what happened here. The short of it is we are under their rating a 3A and a 3B. 3A is a series of criteria for the village area that includes hydrants. 3B is for the valley where there's no hydrants and it's a little bit lesser of a standard. So theoretically, and I didn't get into this kind of detail, I would think that means that our insurance rates for the village for a homeowner in the village are probably more impacted by the underwriter's rating than the one out in the valley. In other words, we pay less here than they do out in the valley. So the short of it is, yes, we do have hydrants. It raised the other issue is then why isn't it on their system? Apparently it is on their system, but what isn't on their system are the geolocations for the hydrants. So we are working on that. And just so you know, I dug a little deeper. And the SRD GIS, who does our GIS, asked our previous CAO if they could get that data transmitted to the underwriters last April. And the administrator said, yes, by all means do it. And I believe I followed up with GIS and they just haven't got back to me yet. I think he's on holidays. So just so you know, that was in the works, but for some reason it just hasn't been completed yet. We'll put it this way,
Okay.
It hasn't shown up on their system. And I'm working with the fire chief to go through the whole list of criteria. And we'll make sure that that's up to date in the next month or so. I think Chief Frank has got most of it together already. And I just want to sit down with him tomorrow to go through it to make sure it's whole. So I think it's under control. I don't know why this individual got a big increase, but I think it's between them and the agent, and we've done our due diligence.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from council? No? Okay, thank you. And that covers everything under new business from the late items. Okay, question period is a maximum of 15 minutes, give or take. The purpose of the question period is to enable citizens to ask questions of council about issues that are important to the citizen asking the question. Speakers are limited to their question, one each, and if time permits, they may have an opportunity for a second question. Citizens will ask to state their name and address, please. Do we have anyone who has anything to ask a council? Anyone else? Not just kidding. Sorry, Sherry Brown, please come on up.
Excuse me. Doesn't matter. I've got a good voice. My question was in concern of the late item that I brought forward for Michelle, the manager of the Kelsey Center. My question is, and you had noted that a special meeting could be held, and I'm asking if we as individuals are able to attend that meeting. And if we are, could you set a time and date for us now so that we can follow up on that?
No, and let me explain why. I believe the CAO has to have a conversation with the rec manager
Who's unavailable?
first,
That's right,
who's
yeah.
unavailable right now. I'm not sure how long her holidays are, but that's a conversation that they need to have, and then the CAO needs to inform me. And I have to be aware of whether or not we need the special meeting to go forward.
Yes, and to my understanding that our manager has spoken with the CAO and was rejected out of him. So that's why it's come forward as it is now.
Okay, yeah, all that has been discussed, but we do have, and as the CAO pointed out rightfully, there is that chain of command that has to take place in order to keep the functioning works of the government, correct? So
Understood.
Michelle regretfully was a little late bringing that in, and then she went on holidays. But she has to make the time, and the CAO has to make the time to sit down, have that discussion on what that program is, make sure that it is, before they bring it to council, it's very clear on what the program's at, where the money's going to come from, how much money it's going to make, and all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And then it's brought to council at that point. Hopefully, I don't know how long she's gone on holidays, but hopefully that won't take long.
And again, I reiterate that our manager met, council had a meeting with the CAO, which he didn't show. And at late time, let her know that he wasn't coming. So they set another time, and it didn't seem that he had much time for her to go through any of it and reject it. So that's why, and it's time sensitive. So I feel that this is something that needs to go forward. And there may be others in this room that might feel the same. So that we can get our September program up and running without losing anything that we had when we kept it at same.
Thank you. Sorry, you're looking like you'd like to speak, CAO.
It's not terribly helpful to have a conversation when the other party is not here. Let me say to council that I offered several times to meet. I did meet, and I outlined what I expected to see by way of proposal to give a fulsome account of what was being proposed. I was taken by surprise that after that conversation, because I was very clear on what the process was, that we find it in here in front of us tonight, because that's not what we decided and that's not what was discussed. So the short of it is, yeah, time was made. I sent a note today to meet with her. I don't know, it's just not very helpful to have this kind of conversation. The short of it is we're dealing with it, and there's a process, and we'll make sure it gets to council in due time.
That was my question.
Okay,
And thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Okay, so that's, is anybody else from the gallery like to speak? No? Okay, going once. Twice. Anybody's welcome to come up and speak during public question period. Just to let you know.
Have any-
Okay. But we can't wait too much longer, folks.
I guess I could say, my
So-
name is Ann Davis, and I'm in the Valley. That's where I live, and I use the rec center at Tremendous Mount. And so the reason for me to be here is because of the concerns that were raised by Sherry about what might be happening. I know it's been a long process of trying to find staff and get programs going again after COVID. And it seemed, what I understand is that there was a package that had been created and great excitement. We're going to get going again. And it seems to have been mixed. So that's my concern. Is it mixed, or is there still a possibility of getting this going for September, which was set up with staff, as I understand it, staff set up and which has been very difficult to get going again.
With the conversation with the CEO, I know it has not been nixed.
Good.
Okay, but there is that process that has to take place. We can't circumvent that process for one staff member and not another. So as long as that process is followed, I mean, the CAO and the staff are well aware of the importance of this issue.
Good.
And they're well aware that if time permits, we can have a special meeting to go forward, but we need the proper information and the protocol to be followed.
And will this happen before September so that the programming can begin?
I don't know when Michelle is back from holidays,
Yeah, okay.
but Michelle has to have a conversation with her boss, the CAO. And then a resolution can be found from there. It can be brought forth. It can make sure that it fits the proper, like all the costs, everything else is all thought out before it does come to council to make that decision. Because when it comes to us, we need to make sure that we have all the information and all the questions are answered, because if it isn't, what will happen is it'll be another delay because certain things weren't done. And then we have to say, I'm sorry, you need to go back and give me this information.
And then my second question would be then, would any of the public be that are concerned with this issue be involved? I think that was.
Be involved? No, you're not involved in that discussion between the CAO and Michelle.
So this.
You would be involved in, when we hold a special meeting, unless it's in camera, the public can be there. So that's, unless it's an in-camera meeting, is the only time the public can't. But a lot of times, some of the special meetings would be open to the public.
That answers my question. Thank you very much. Just wanted to speak in favor of it.
Okay.
Of the process going ahead in a timely way. Thank you.
So, thank you. Okay, so we need a recommended resolution in accordance with section 92 of the community charter and section 90-1C and -90-1E and -90-1K for in-camera. So in accordance with section 92, the in-camera meeting will be closed to the public at this time, and council may give consideration to matter in accordance with the sections that I've spoken of. Do we have a motion, please? Second. Discussion. Opposed? All in favor? I get to do this again. Meeting's adjourned.